I remember that day like it was filed away in a special folder. I went into the workshop to get a light bulb, and there on the door was a sheet of paper in big letters. Closing in 2 weeks. Contact, Igor. My heart sank, not because I'd lose a place to get small repairs done, but because that shop had been part of the neighborhood for over 20 years. They fixed more than just kettles and microwaves, they patched small fractures in people's daily lives. Someone picked up a repaired stove and left a pie. Someone borrowed a screwdriver and later returned a bag of sugar. Igor, tall, quiet, with thick brows, always sat at the bench, drank weak tea and spoke little. I saw the bare shelves, boxes of nuts and bolts, and felt that something more than a business was folding. I walked home with a key in my pocket and a sense of loss heavier than the inconvenience of having nowhere to bring things. I thought, no, we can't just let this place disappear. Lots of people complained about competition from big services, rising rent, or that younger folks buy new stuff instead of fixing it. But to me, Igor and his shop were part of everyday life. That evening I wrote in the building chat, who else is worried about Igor's workshop? Maybe we should meet and do something. The first replies were short, yes, unbelievable, what can we do? And I realized the question wasn't just about personal convenience but about the social capital we risked losing. I went to the shop the next day early, before Igor had cleared his tools. He was sitting at the bench looking out the window. I didn't want to boss him around or try to rescue him. People don't like being told what to do. So I asked simply, what happened? He spoke briefly. The rent went up, some old equipment broke, fewer customers, and his son, who lives in another city, advised him to close. I saw tired stubbornness in him, a person who had done the same work for years and no longer had the energy to keep it up. We talked numbers, though I'm no accountant. Rent was roughly a quarter of his income, tools were a few dozen thousand hryvnias, and the steady stream of clients was only half of what it had been 5 years ago. He admitted he sometimes feared taking new jobs, unsure he could cover parts and materials. I suggested a simple survey. Find out what services neighbors actually needed and whether people would sign up for a small subscription for basic repairs. He smirked wryly. A subscription? Sounds like a startup school. But I saw a flicker of hope in his eyes. We agreed I'd talk to a few neighbors and he'd calculate how many hours he'd need to cover the basics. I started small. I arranged with 3 regulars, Mrs. Luba on the 2nd floor, who always had kettles to fix, a young family on the 3rd floor who frequently needed shelves installed, and our building security guard, who liked to bring in old lamps. Each agreed to pay a small monthly fee, not charity, but a subscription for a basic package of 4 minor jobs a year. Together that provided Igor with predictable income for several months. Then I went further. A colleague at work had been laid off and had done furniture work before. I asked if he'd take a couple of evening shifts. He agreed, and 2 others volunteered to help with marketing, putting up flyers and posting in local groups. A small circle of person-to-person support began to form. We also spoke with the landlord, the person renting the space, and explained the situation honestly. He was skeptical but agreed to a short-term rent reduction if we could show a plan with steady payments. This wasn't magic. It was coordination. People gave not only money but time and ideas. Someone offered to lend spare parts, someone else offered equipment on a trial basis. We also needed rules. How much a subscription would cost, what services were included, and how we'd keep records. We made a simple Google form and posted notices. When the first few people signed up, Igor smiled slightly, the kind of smile I'd seen before when he showed an impeccably repaired clock. The next step was practical and a bit harder. Make the shop more visible and a little more modern. One Saturday we cleaned up, washed the window, re-glued the sign, put a small table with a price list and photos of past repairs in the window. The young people handling marketing set up a basic social account. Before and after photos, short videos of repair work, a few neighbors' testimonials. It cost little but began to work. People who had been going to big services started calling on recommendations. We also adjusted pricing, lower fees for small jobs, discounts for regular customers. Larger projects negotiated separately. That let Igor plan material purchases. Another idea. Weekly workshop nights. Every Tuesday Igor ran short classes on basic household skills. How to replace an outlet, how to care for a washing machine. That did 2 things. It reduced future breakages because people learned, and a few young people saw the shop as a temporary income source or a place to gain skills. The first month was tough but steady. A few large orders from a nearby cafe brought real cash flow. We shared reports openly with subscribers. Transparency kept trust. Igor finally bought a few needed tools, and the workshop changed visibly. Not pretty, but more reliable. Of course, not everything went smoothly. There were setbacks. A new helper accidentally damaged an important tool and we had to replace it. Some clients missed scheduled appointments with paid bookings. The landlord hinted that the discount period was ending. Some people were skeptical. Why should I pay for something I used to get done on the fly? We quickly realized we needed to clearly explain the value. It wasn't just the repair, but the certainty of having a reliable local handyman, fast response time, and the chance to learn. We created simple rules. Advance payments and partial refunds for canceled jobs, clear deadlines, and the option to transfer a job to another technician with client consent. We also started working with local businesses. The cafe allowed us to leave business cards, and a small furniture workshop offered to send repair referrals and take a cut. That broadened our customer base. The hardest moment was when a regular customer complained about a poor repair. I was there during the conversation. A tension between solving the problem quickly and not losing the trust of someone who'd invested in the initiative. We offered free rework, and it worked. The customer came back satisfied and left a short positive review. Small conflicts taught us about guarantees and customer care. After 6 months, survival mode gave way to planning. We formalized subscriptions, set a work schedule, and, most importantly, began hiring people who had lost jobs in the area. One man, formerly a factory worker, wanted to learn. We gave him basic tasks under Igor's supervision, and he gradually became a reliable assistant. Another young family took on logistics and a run for materials. The workshop became a place people visited not only for repairs but for learning. Someone who came to an evening course stayed on as a volunteer. Someone else started teaching woodworking. We organized short internships, a month of work for minimal pay with the possibility of regular employment. It wasn't a big company, but for a few people it was a real chance to rebuild skills and gain stability. The effect spread. Kids from the courtyard began coming to watch tools and asked if they could learn. We started kids' classes on simple projects: how to make a shelf, how to use a drill safely under supervision. That was a small investment in neighborhood strength. Most importantly, Igor stopped seeing the workshop as a burden. He felt useful again. Update. A year later, I was walking by the shop and saw a new hand-lettered sign: Igor's Workshop, Neighborhood Repairs. I felt the same warmth as when we first started. In that time, we helped 2 people find jobs, stabilized Igor's income so he no longer worried about closing, and handled over 100 small repairs around the neighborhood through subscriptions. The workshop now runs evening classes, has an internship schedule, and a modest online page with reviews. For me, this wasn't just a story about saving a business. It was about turning an individual loss into collective action. People gave time, money, skills, and a little patience. We didn't invent anything. We did 3 simple things: asked, organized, and set straightforward rules that reduced risk. When neighbors saw results, visible in fixed irons, mended doors, and repaired chairs, trust returned on its own. Igor sometimes stops by the building entrance and says, "I don't know what I would have done without you." I tell him we just helped get his work back, but really, we brought part of our neighborhood back. A place where people can fix not only furniture but the feeling that someone nearby will help.